My name is Lynn Montgomery, and I'm delivering the opening words for today. And the opening words are a protest and a party by Reverend Hannah Roberts Villanavi. People sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer is, of course, yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands, bring your glitter, bring your Supreme Court broken heart, bring your rainbow socks, bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings who have gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change. Bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and battered by a world that seems insistent on changing fear and hate. Gather up all these things and bring them here, to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together.
Do you want to open the Wonder Box? Let's see what's in there. What is it? Do you know what that is? Does anybody else here know what this is? What is it? It's the hymnal. And it's actually called the gray one. Is not, believe it or not, it's not called the gray hymnal. Its official name is Singing the Living Tradition. And I think that's really important because that reminds us that this is a living tradition. It's bookmarked. I might need help from one of my readers here. Let's see. You want to open it? Yes. Okay. And can you tell me what hymnal that is marked to? Right here. Yeah, you can just open it to that. There you go. What's the number?
170.
And the title?
We are a gentle, angry people.
Ooh, did we just sing that maybe? But it was called something different in our order of service. What was it called?
For our lives.
Singing for our lives. Do we feel like both of those things might be really important? Okay. Now, how many of you know the story about that song or stories? Because as things are a living tradition, stories change and evolve over time as we widen our circle. How many people here feel like they know about that song? Perfect. A little bit? Okay. That's why I'm here. Because when we just sing things and we don't remember the history of how those things came to be, sometimes we lose really important perspective. Okay, I was born in 1979. This song was written around that time, a little bit before that. So this song is as old as I am. And I did not learn this song until I became a UU many years ago, but still not all the time I've been around. And it was written by a fabulous songwriter and singer named Holly Near. And what I think is important for you to know, how many of you have ever read the kids' book, Pride, the Story of Harvey Milk? Have any of you read that one? Okay, so Harvey Milk is important because he was the first openly gay politician to run in the state of California. And unfortunately, less than a year or just over a year of him serving, someone chose violence and ended Harvey's life. And that was a very key time there in San Francisco. And what happened, do you think, to people? Thinking about the song, what's the title of it? We are a gentle, angry people. Do you think people might have been angry? What else do you think people might have felt? Yeah.
Sorrow.
sorrow, right? Here's someone who was so brave and courageous and has lost their life. And we're angry that that's not okay. It's not okay. And people are getting hurt. And isn't that what we want, is for things to change? And so what do people do sometimes when they're angry and upset with how things are going in the world? Sing. They sing. And so this wonderful songwriter wrote this song. And in that moment of action, because people gathered, has anybody here ever been to a vigil where you light candles and you gather together, maybe in a public space, to witness some injustice that's happened and to honor the person who's died? So Holly wrote this song as a call to action. And this song demands that we make sure everybody knows who we are and how many we are, and who will not be moved, who are scared and angry and loving and resisting. Because that love is a very powerful thing, isn't it? Can love change people's minds? Can it change people's hearts? Yeah. Can it change people's thoughts and the way they interact with one another? Yes. And how many people here love to sing? Yeah, I see lots of hands on this one. So Holly was so smart to write a song, and songs that could be sung over and over and over again, and to keep building onto it and adding onto it. And so across the country, Holly became identified with the Lesbian Popular Magazine. And when People Magazine ran a story on her work, she made a point of saying the word gay. Right now, we're having places in our country where people are saying you cannot say the word gay. So think, before I was born, it was a problem. And now here I am, middle age, and it's still a problem. So what do we need to do? Sing, right? So just to get people used to hearing the word, it was dangerous territory. And she wanted to make sure that she was out about all of her beliefs, whether they concerned war or class or race or gender. She did not want to be the keeper of secrets. So, yes. What's a way to fix the problem? We could all become LGBTQ and then they can't find us in a sea of them, right? You don't know. And that's why it's important to be allies and to stand with one another and to show up. So one of the things I also want to share about this song is that in November of 2017, which some of you might have been around by then, she performed this song. And toward the end of the show, she led folks in singing the song. And they sang the first couple verses like Sandra and Chris did. And then she began to speak, and she recalled how she wrote the song after tragedy. And she said, "We originally sang, 'We are gay and lesbian together.' But then we were surrounded, just like you were talking about, by the love of our allies, and they showed up fiercely. And so I changed it to, 'We are gay and straight together.' And now we're learning more and more about gender and sexuality, and it requires more syllables than she can fit into a song." And so she decided then and there to add a verse and to say, "We are all in this together." How about we try that? We are all in this together. And in that 30-second riff, she updated the lyrics to expand the circle of love that this song holds. And so I say thank you to Holly. And I remind you all that we are all in this together. And we will sing our children out to their classes.
Next, we're going to have a video reflection from Summer Hall. Many of you may know Tracy Price and Summer Hall, loud, proud couple, gay couple from Seymour who are members here. And they're on vacation, but they wanted to participate. So Summer has recorded a video for us this morning.
Hi, my name is Summer Hall, and I am a proud member of the UUCCI of Columbus. I am 61 years old, female, identified female, natal birth. And I have been identified and out as a lesbian for 31 years. When I came out, it was a conscious decision. I was living alone by myself and had a young daughter and realized that I needed to kind of do some deep searching on myself. And obviously my journey brought to me that I was lesbian. So I came out with a good friend of mine, but the problem was we came out to the only option she showed me or knew, which was the bar scene in Indianapolis. Of course, that did not resonate with me. It took a little bit of time to realize that there were other communities and support. I did rely a lot on my friends to talk to about it, but it wasn't until a fateful choice or guidance or hand dropped a newsletter into my mailbox from the National Women's Music Festival. And in that article, or in that newsletter, excuse me, there was an advertisement for help needing. They had to be a work study student at the college I was attending. So of course I applied and I was hired, and I was accessible to the most influential person running that festival. Mary Byrne is her name. She went on to do great things such as the IYG license plate and legislation for Indiana. But at that time, what that did was showed me a world that was healthy and empowering. And so I went into this music festival environment, seeing women create pretty much villages and communities by themselves. Women drummers, women artists, women builders, like I said, of fires and community, self-sustaining. And I realized then that that was where I belonged, of course. So as a person being out and coming out, the tools I think that I would have needed, obviously a safe place, because my concerns when I did identify and open up as a lesbian was where to find the options of, well, who else is like me? So, of course, I had wonderful friends that did not identify as gay or lesbian, but were safe enough to discuss this this world with me, the concerns. But no one knew the other options other than this one friend that says, well, I go out to the bars. So in allies that really would like to support the community is maybe understanding some of the other different options that would be needed. It's a lot different now, though. IYG is booming. We have Columbus Pride, of course. We have our wonderful congregation that is there to support. So it's a little bit different. But I do think it's about being transparent, because I never had a lot of fears of being hurt or ostracized, but I have to say that I am more of a feminine looking lesbian. So the people that I tend to gravitate to for relationships are not. So it was dating more the masculine identified lesbians that I started seeing that safety is a concern. So my concerns more was, well, what is my mom gonna think? Or, what if I say it to, at work, what's going to happen there? So my concerns, I was lucky enough to not have violence or safety issues, more just where are more like-minded people. And again, this was 31 years ago. So we had no role models other than maybe I think, finally Martina Navratilova came out, of course, Melissa Etheridge. That was kind of the era of Ellen and all that. So I was lucky enough to kind of come out with Stone Butch Blues, which is a wonderful book if no one's ever read it. Tipping the Velvet, another piece of this is a piece of fiction. So I immediately immersed myself into literature and history of the culture of the movement, which a lot of people don't and didn't. But I think that's what sustained me in the beginning. And then, like I said, I found the women's community. So being an ally, it really is about, I think, what we have in the church, the celebration of it, the open dialogue, the transparency of it, and the support of it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brittany Phillips, and my pronouns are she, her. Many of you already know that. You might know me as the office admin, or some of the younger folks might know me as Aurora's mama. Some lucky few might even know me as that lady who makes really good bread pudding. When I was invited to share my experiences with my friends here at UUCCI, it occurred to me that y'all already know an awful lot about me. But I don't think I've ever officially come out to any of my friends here. Some of you might not know that I happen to be a card-carrying member of the LGBTQ community, a community that means an awful lot to me. But you wouldn't know this just by looking at me. Of course, it would be understandable if someone were to assume that I was straight. After all, I do have a pretty amazing husband, and I have a wonderful daughter. When you just look at the surface of a person, it is human nature to make assumptions. And I'm just as guilty of this knee-jerk reaction as anyone else in this room today. After all, how are you to know who I am unless I tell you a bit about myself? And so, it is a great honor and a joy to come out to you, my friends, today. Now, when I was a teenager, that would have been a different story entirely. When I was a teen, I was nervous about coming out to my family and friends, but I had not realized that I would spend the rest of my life coming out like this at one point or another to anyone who cared enough to take the time to get to know me. I wish that I could go back and tell my younger self that over time, coming out to others would feel like a celebration and not like an admission of some moral wrongdoing. It would begin to feel like a celebration of who I am and a celebration of the love that my community has for me. But we don't talk about that business. The topic of sexual orientation just isn't dinner conversation. The demographic of people who I happen to be attracted to just doesn't come up very often during coffee with friends or work meetings or at neighborhood pitch-ins, with the exception of one woman that I met at a coven gathering who introduced herself to me by saying, "I'm Kim, I'm lesbian, and I brought the potato salad." I knew we were going to get along right off the bat. But people just don't introduce themselves like that. But my goodness, wouldn't it make socializing a bit easier if they did? But of course, we don't talk about that business. In fact, I grew up in a family that didn't talk about that business. When I was a child, I didn't feel ashamed for having a crush on that neighbor girl and wanting to marry her someday. I didn't feel ashamed until I found out that I was supposed to. I grew up in a household hearing a lot of opinions about Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell. And I often wonder, would my mother have spoken more kindly about these women if she had not assumed that I was straight? I also wonder, in my lifetime, have I made a passing remark or a small joke and not realized that it had cost me the trust of someone that I loved? For a time, I was grateful that my mother assumed that I was straight, because it would have broken my heart to hear what she would have said about me. And so I tried to straighten myself out. When I was 13, I went on my first date with the son of an Edinburgh pastor. And I prayed that no one found out that I actually had a crush on that neighbor girl down the street, you know, the one with the dimples. I ripped out pages of hunky models and male singers from magazines and I plastered them on my bedroom walls because that's what straight girls do in the movies, right? I spent most of middle school leaving a trail of breadcrumbs and Backstreet Boys posters, hoping to lead people to the assumption that I was straight. But I'm not. I do find men mostly bewildering, but also sometimes attractive. That was not supposed to be a funny part, but I'm glad y'all got a chuckle out of that. I am able to see beauty and find romantic connections with men and with women and with all the amazing possibilities that exist in between on the gender spectrum. I am pansexual, from the Greek word pan meaning all. I see the beauty in all people, regardless of gender. And I cannot stress how affirming it was as a teenager to learn this word, to know that I am not broken or confused and that there is a word to describe the way that I feel and there are other people out there in this world who are just like me. It was a blessing to find this word, this new way to identify myself. And I was able to do so because I had found community in others like me. When I was a high school student, I became a member of our school's Gay Straight Alliance, or GSA. And for the first time, I was welcomed into a community openly and unconditionally. Of course, I had been a part of clubs and congregations, even Girl Scout troops, that allowed queer people in. At the time, that was considered pretty progressive if an organization didn't automatically turn you away at the door. But is that really welcoming? I'm here today to tell you that there is a big difference between being allowed into a space and being invited in. It is the difference between hearing, well, you can come along if you want, I guess, and hearing, hey, we are so excited you're here. We would love for you to join us. You are invited. It is the difference between being tolerated and being celebrated in a community. Now, my coming out story got off to a rough start, but things took a drastic turn for the better when I found a community that accepted and supported me. Sure, we were just a gaggle of high schoolers trying to figure out who we were, but we created a space where we could share the pieces of our identities that had never seen the light of day for fear of being shunned or shamed. We were able to gain the words to express our souls out loud with pride. Hell, I even had my first date with a girl at one of the GSA movie nights. And we had a great time. We celebrated each other. We made friends. I made friends with trans and non-binary kids, and they made friends who didn't question or judge their very existence. This is why community is so important to me. This is why I have made community my life's work, because I know what it feels like to stand just outside the circle of acceptance and wonder if I too will be invited in someday. This is why I am so proud to be a member of UUCCI, because we don't shy away from the difficult or uncomfortable conversations. We lean into them through workshops, through activism, through services like this one here today. We shine a light on the parts of ourselves that some others may wish for us to keep tucked away in the shadows, but that's not who we are, is it, friends? We don't hide ourselves. We don't hide our love for one another. We carry our light into the world and we make it our mission to talk about this business, this very important business of loving ourselves and loving one another. I would like to speak to the heart of everyone here today and everyone listening at home who are also card-carrying members of the LGBTQ community. If you are seeking connection with others, but are worried that you might be judged for who you are or who you love, we invite you in. I invite you to find the support that you are seeking within this sacred space, and I want you to know that you are not just welcome, You are celebrated here at UUCCI. You are sacred and you are loved, not in spite of your queerness, but because of it. Welcome, rejoice, and come in.
For our next reflection, I'd like to invite my friend David Cadlick forward to share a few words. Many of you may know David. One of the reasons I invited David to speak and share today is OWL, Our Whole Lives, comprehensive sexuality education. We are proud that we have that program here at UUCCI. And one of the things we value and learn is about how to be a trusted adult and a trusted friend. And when I was preparing this service and talking with Sandra about it, she said, "What is a trusted adult and how do I know if I am one?" And I said, well, I bet I know someone who can help us do that reflection for ourselves. So without further ado, David Cadlick.
A trusted adult. I have a confession to make. I completely forgot about doing this. Talk about thought about not, it was like, oh shoot. But as I listened, Brittany, it was just phenomenal. You know, the speakers, the process of, I should back up a teeny bit and go, David Cadlick, he, him. I am an OWL facilitator. I consider myself an ally in training. It's ongoing. I started a radio show with a group of men, and we did a lot of work around gay straight alliance stuff. That was 40 years ago. In the middle of AIDS, we were losing members. We were losing family. It was phenomenal. The stuff we bucked up against then was ferocious. It was horrific. And there was love in it too. And that process is ongoing to today for us to disarm that piece. And I am quick to acknowledge that inside of me, I still carry homophobia. It's in there too. And I need to, bump up against that occasionally and continue to bring like a gentleness to myself in that process of bumping into that, because that's not helpful for me to beat myself up, but to be flexible enough to see that and to respond to it with love in my heart. And that's part of why I do the OWL, because it's a phenomenal honor to help young people with something so tender, so incredibly shot through with the capacity to get in trouble and an equal capacity to fly like a bird. So that's the way that we approach that, is there's magic here and it's fraught with some peril. We're going to like wade into that stuff. So as I'm reflecting here, I'm thinking about, well, how that we have come a long way. Back in the days of doing, we called it man-made radio in Minneapolis, we had, OWL didn't exist then. I think that's right around the time maybe that OWL started emerging. I got no sex education, and certainly there was no talk about gay stuff. Nothing. The trans stuff was almost invisible and terrifying to the culture. We've come a long way. And I'm thinking right now about just recently in the last couple of weeks, a dear friend of mine, their son, a marriage came apart because one of the members of this marriage came out, 2 children. And the process of that being told to me, this unfolding, was hesitant, and I realized, well, how much did I buy into the notion that somehow the coming out was a problem? And 2 children came of this marriage. So I started right away thinking, just like, why is it different? Because somebody came out and simultaneously how wondrous that these two incredible young people were that came of that connection. Lovely. And at the same time, I'm going like, how screwed up is it that somebody went through well into their adult life and had to be closeted? It's just like two things colliding, and which I'm still wrangling with. And I know that this is so new with that family that there'll be opportunities to, delve into that a little bit and a lot to kind of unravel, how do we take care of each other? How do we meet these two young people with love? And how do we turn it not into a judging moment, but an educational moment? So, and I always do this around OWL, especially when with guys, since within OWL there are more women who do OWL, as facilitate OWL. I'm the only male in this area doing it. Probably in Bloomington, there probably are some guys. I haven't met them, but we need more. Yeah, I encourage guys to really think about it. When after our boys went through OWL, I said, I should do that because I got nothing. And we get right into the thick of non-binary and meeting kids who are asking some of the most amazing questions they could ask. So great. And so I encourage guys to go like, if you're looking for something to do, a way to serve, a way to meet somebody in the most juicy part of their lives and help them demystify that a bit, I invite you to consider that. So we've come a long way. We have far to go. This is deep stuff. It's living in me, that kind of, and I think it's living in all of us if we're willing to just acknowledge that, soften into that, make it a bit of an internal mission. We're here to love. And I totally get that from everybody here. And I'm grateful to be here, Evan, except for coming for OWL, which we do later this afternoon. I don't get here much. And it's lovely to look out on y'all. Thank you.
One of the messages we hear time and time again is representation matters, right? Having those people think about in your life, who was someone you trusted? Who was someone you knew? Who's someone who showed up for you? We need trusted adults. We need trusted friends. And I think part of when Sandra and I were talking, and even when David was speaking, it's not just for kids. Kids don't just need trusted adults. Adults need trusted adults. So that's why we're saying trusted adults and friends. We're all still learning as we go. We're still learning how to adult and how to be better humans in this world. So I'd like to shift a little bit into this love, into this meditation on love, and love being at the center and foundation. We've reground ourselves here in our highest values. Love is the center and foundation of this faith. Love is the power that holds us together as community. As we reflect on the things we've heard today, let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love. Because love is not only something we receive, but something we practice in community. Let fall away all that might distract us from this wholehearted practice of love. Let us be accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Let me repeat that. Think about love as a spiritual discipline. As we continue to listen and learn, to act and grow, may each unfold in wholeness, both deeply loving and truly loved. We have some friends to help me for this beautiful, powerful, responsive litany. I'd like to introduce you a little bit to this litany. It is a ritual for pride, published in Blessing It All, We offer this as a time for prayers of protection and celebration, a time to send others and ourselves off with armor and joy. It is a blessing for, of, and by the LGBTQ plus community. The authors co-created this ritual out of their lived experience as queer clergy women who love both blessings and parties. So we invite you to join us in this litany of blessing. Your response will be, we are precious and we are powerful. So let's try that right now. We are precious and we are powerful.
We come from fierce freedom fighters, from the survivors and the dead of the HIV crisis, who organized and fought for their lives, from the Black kings and queens who ruled the ballroom, who insisted we dance even amidst death and devastation. From these ancestors we learn, we are precious and we are powerful.
With the tender-hearted butches and powerful femmes, with the strong twinks and soft bears, with all the complexities that live within each of us, we know that we are whole just as we are. We are precious and we are powerful.
From the Black Dykes, the Trans Chicana sisters, the Barica boys, and every other sibling who is told they can't bring their full self to queer community. From them, we learn. We are precious and we are powerful.
To the elders who've seen it all, to those with one toe out of the closet, to those who are still in it, to those who tore down the closet altogether, we say, we are precious and we are powerful.
In the face of hatred, in the faces of those who deny our wholeness, we root ourselves in the truth we know. We are precious and we are powerful.
From the dance floor to the Capitol Rotunda, from our kitchen tables to the White House, from jail cells to classrooms to pulpits like this one, whether whispered or shouted, we will and do proclaim, we are precious and we are powerful. May you receive and reflect love everywhere you go, and know in your deepest heart and in every day you matter and you belong. May you hold on to hope and your inner sparkle even when discouragement and despair beckon. May the beauty that is you shine out, bright as the stars from which we came and to which we will return. Together, may we make this a place of welcome and healing, of connection and plurality. Together, may we practice compassion and courage, seeing and celebrating and supporting each other. Together, may we be the sparkling force of love that our world needs. Blessed by this community and by the divine, go forth and celebrate with pride.